Okay, so in this video we're going to be talking about a music video that I recently directed. I was not the cinematographer on this video. I actually had my friend Keaton and I shoot this video because our old friend here, Daniel Moody, reached out to us. He wanted to shoot a music video. We were both available and we thought it would be a fun thing to collaborate on and just kind of make this piece together. So before we jump into this breakdown, I highly encourage you to click the link in the description to go watch Daniel Moody's video so you can see the whole concept before we dive into it and start breaking down some of the shots. But I thought it would be fun to break down basically how we shot and lit this video. It's something that's pretty unique to what I've done in the past. And that's kind of why music videos are so fun, because you get to experiment and think outside the box and make something that maybe a commercial client wouldn't let you make. So right out of the gate, we wanted to go with a little bit of a trendy thing here, and we shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio. We actually shot the full sensor of the Kinefinity Mavo LF. That was the camera that we shot on. I believe that's like a 3:2 sensor, a full 6K sensor when you do that. And then we just put up frame guides for when shooting to get that 4:3 aspect ratio. And the idea behind this music video was that we wanted everything to kind of just feel like a static photo, like a static kind of 6:6 photo, like from a film camera or something like that. So everything was just kind of like fly on the wall. We're just kind of watching and seeing what's happening. Not a lot of camera movement. Actually, I don't think we had any camera movement at all in the entire video. We just wanted to make pictures, basically moving pictures. I thought it was a really fun way of making this music video. I'm just gonna kind of pick my favorites, maybe the ones that I feel like have like the most unique lighting or lighting that I really liked, and basically show you how to do that. Before we get started, I'm just going to talk about this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to present your work online. It's really important as a cinematographer or filmmaker, anyone in the art space, to put yourself out online, and Squarespace is a great place to build a website for that very purpose. They have hundreds of pre-existing templates to get yourself going, or you can build the website from scratch. Just do it however you please. The great thing about Squarespace is that it's just really easy to do it on your own because they have the tools there for that. And it's especially easy for filmmakers and photographers because a lot of these templates are built off of portfolio kind of style designs, which that's what you're probably trying to do. So you can embed videos really easily from like Vimeo or YouTube. Of course, you could upload photos there. I just really like how quickly you can build a page. Maybe you want to add something last minute, or maybe a new project just came through and you want to throw it up on your website as quick as possible. It really doesn't take longer than 5 minutes to get things going. You can just quickly add a page, throw the work into that page and have it there for people to look at. You can even make private pages that maybe if you want to just send something to a client so they can kind of see the next iteration of the video, maybe a rough cut or something, or maybe some behind the scenes photos, whatever that is, you can just build a page for this specific person. You don't even have to have it be a public page. If you're like starting a new project and you want to send some inspiration photos to the client, you can actually build a whole deck on that really easily rather than having to jump into something like Photoshop or something like that to make this presentation. You can just do it like with a page on Squarespace. I think it's a little kind of bonus feature that you can use it for. You can basically have private web pages. So if you're anything like me and you need to present yourself online, well, you can do that with Squarespace. Just click the link in the description to get 10% off, and I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So you can see in this opening shot here, we're clearly using a Pro Mist filter. We're using my vintage lenses, and we kind of have a filmic kind of grade on here. We also have a bunch of grain on the image. But let's kind of scroll through here and find a shot that looks nice. So this was the first shot of the day. The first shot of the day is always the hardest shot. You're kind of getting into your groove. You're getting your light set up and staged and ready to go. You're kind of finding how the light works in the space, and it's almost always the longest shot to set up because not everything is set up yet, and you're just kind of like figuring out the day. You gotta kind of just get into this kind of groove of shooting, and then once things are moving, then things start to get easier throughout the day. So just keep that in mind if you're on set and you're like, man, I feel not confident because this first shot's not going well. The first shot just basically never goes well. But with this one, we were competing with the windows outside. It was cloudy outside, which was nice. It kind of helped set the mood. It was easier to compete with those clouds. But this is way brighter than it looks here. We really tried to bring down that image like I talk about a lot on the channel. So it's brought down really far. We're really saving those highlights. It's all the information's there. We're using an ND filter here. And then let's see here. I'm pretty sure we have the Aputure 600D off in this room over here, and that's kind of just making this little bit of a splash. You can tell how low it is, even though we probably have that thing cranked up fairly high just because we're trying to compete with these windows out here. And then over here on the right, we've got the Aputure Nova. So we're using kind of powerful lights for this. Luckily, Keaton has these powerful lights, so it was kind of easy to shoot this music video. We actually had the right stuff to do it. And so basically what we did here is we had that Nova as our key light. We wanted to just kind of feel like a little bit of a warm light coming from like that lamp in the background or something else off in the house. Very natural. We've got that color contrast. We've got the daylight outside, and we've got the tungsten kind of look inside. So we've got the yellow and those blues. So we have the Nova set on a tungsten setting, and then to make it even softer, we actually kind of did like this kind of ghost effect, which where you tilt the Nova down, kind of straight down, and we took a sheet of diffusion, probably like a quarter grit or something like that, and draped it over the top of it, kind of making this like little lamp effect, basically making it look like a lamp. It's just kind of glowing down on this, I think Keaton called it a ghost, the ghost effect like that, because it kind of looks like a ghost, you know, moving around the room. And we filled that up with that kind of tungsten light, and that's just kind of what's splashing him and kind of creating these little highlights off here in the room. Yeah, so I think that turned out pretty nice. It's a really long opening shot here, so we really wanted to set the vibes with this shot. Then we've got these little twinkle lights out here. Those just happen to be there. Those just look nice in the background with the bokeh. We're actually shooting most of this video on my Canon 55mm f1.2. And for a good portion of it, we are probably at like f1.8, f2. That's where that's kind of the sweet spot of that lens, where it's not completely just faded and completely soft. This gives it just a little bit of that sharpness back, a little bit of that contrast back, and you actually see what you're shooting, but we still have that amazing bokeh from the 55mm. It's another quick one. You can see, like, look how dark this is, but we actually, look at the highlights up here. They're almost clipping based on my grade here. This looks really dark, but we've hazed this. Yeah, most of these shots in here we are using a proper hazer for as well. We're making it look really moody. But I believe we had probably the 600D or the Nova, I want to say. You can see in the behind the scenes footage what we were actually using. And we bounced that up into this corner here, and just to give that elevation in the room, just to kind of compete with these tungsten lamps or these little LED lights, whatever these are, just to compete with these little practical lights that are over here, and to add this kind of that color contrast again. We got the blues and greens over here, and we've got the orange yellows over here. But we have a lot of light pumping into here just to get this shot. And we have this ND filter really cranked down to make this nice and moody. The trick with doing these kind of shots was always having it on a tripod and trying to just get those lines as perfectly straight as we could when composing each shot, just kind of giving this really nice straight edge kind of look. This one was fun. We put the camera in the back seat of this old Mercedes at the this parking lot location. You can see a little bit of shake from the tripod in the car, but other than that, it looks really static, really nice. I don't think we did anything to this. We kind of got lucky. It's just dark inside, and you kind of have that light coming in from the other side. It's nice. So this was a kind of fun setup. We did a few different things on this setup. We actually had a 600D outside with the Fresnel, I believe, attachment on it, or maybe we just had it on with the can on it. We put a gel over it and then moved it back and forth to kind of make it look like this kind of moving light effect, just through the windows, just through the blinds, nothing special on there to modify it. And then we hazed the crap out of the room. And in this shot, we are shooting right into a mirror, which just gives a little bit more depth. It was a really small room, and do it this way, you can actually see some depth in the room. So shooting in the mirror, looking for those kind of fun ways of adding a little bit different look to the scene. Shooting with that Pro Mist, you can see a little bit of bloom down here from that Pro Mist. The computer fans are turning on. Hopefully that doesn't ruin the audio. This one, we had the ISO cranked outside at dusk. Actually, the light on his face here is actually from the lighter. The Mavo LF actually has a dual gain sensor. I'm not sure if we were using that on this, but I think it's like 3200 or 5000 ISO is where it kicks over to that second gain. So we just had this kind of cranked up, and it looks great. The lighter was actually brighter than you would think, especially shooting at 1.8. Now that we're outside, this is a time of day thing. We just kind of got lucky. We're at sunset shooting this. So this is back in that room. We have that same key light coming from this, that kind of ghost key light from the Nova, just to give that nice shape on his face. I mean, just look at that nice highlight coming over his face, and then the catch light in his eye by creating that kind of ghost look rather than having like a big source there. Just had that little catch light in his eye because it's, it's probably 5 feet from him. What's great about the Nova is already like a panel light. It already gives you kind of like a semi-soft source compared to just one of those can lights. And then when you put that diffusion over there, it just kind of gives it this nice glow throughout the room. So we have the color contrast again from the windows, and then his shirt was blue. All of this was planned. We made sure that he had the right colors. He was wearing the right stuff that would contrast off the scene. This was all, thought out and chosen. When I was sitting there directing, we were going through the wardrobe. We had to make these choices then. We were trying to be intentional about every color we put in the scene. Whereas you'll see later, he starts to wear red, and that really pops off the blue sky, and we kind of just wanted that contrast. This one was kind of fun. I believe we had my nanlite tubes, and then we have this cool light here that Keaton has built. He took a bunch of the little Aputure MC lights, the little RGB square lights that have the magnets on the back of them. He built this like backing for it, basically, where he put 4 of those lights together so they can all be controlled from an app, and it kind of turns it into sort of like my tube light, where my tube light, you know, is a singular light. These all go together and they create a strip light that can all be the same color temperature, which is really fun. And you can take those out and use them by themselves, or you can put it in here into this fixture and basically make it one big light. So I think we had that off to the side here. We had that over here just to give a little kick on his face. Also working with these practical lights that were there in the room. Once again with the color contrast, I've done this nice zoom. It's a really long, fun shot here. Nothing special without this outside stuff. This is all just in the color grade, properly exposed. We're back in this room here. We've got this little practical light in here. I believe we either diffused it or, you know, there wasn't a lantern there originally, so I think Keaton went and found like a little lampshade and put the lampshade on top of this little light that was there, and then probably cut a bunch of the light off of there, or maybe he threw one of the Aputure bulbs there just to dim it way down. So in this situation, those bulbs would actually be too bright when you're shooting in this dark environment. You don't want the light to be that bright, so you want to find a way of trying to bring that light down. So either we put some diffusion on it or something on there to bring down the light, or we just put one of those little Aputure B7C bulbs. I don't know, I have one over here. A little RGB bulb that will just go into a regular socket so you can dim it way down. Aputure lights, they're doing great. Lots of haze in this one. We have that Aputure outside the window. Actually, this kind of gold look is also just coming from those shades. I don't have a behind the scenes shot of this one. I don't know if we were just using the Nova for this one, or if we just had an Aputure bulb in this lamp here, but I really like this shot. I love the tones on his face. I love that kind of gold tungsten-y look. You guys know I like that a lot on the channel. Same thing here from earlier. We basically have the Nova or the 600D bouncing off on this corner over here just to give a little bit of light coming from this side of the wall, and then we either have negative fill here or we're just letting this fall off. Just get that nice shape. Look how nice it is, and we just have everything pulled way down just to make everything look nice and soft. This is a time of day thing here. So we actually only shot ProRes 422 HQ on the Mavo for this, and the colors look really nice still. You know, we just did that for practicality's sake. I mean, the RAW on the Kinefinity is like DNGs, which I actually think they just removed that from the camera. The DNGs are just too big. It would just be out of control, so we just ended up just shooting ProRes. It still looks great. So here we got that red shirt now. That's really gonna pop off the blue background, especially with this blue pants. It looks really nice. Here we've got that moving light again, which is that 600D that Easton was here for this. He was painting that back and forth to kind of just get this nice light effect. So it kind of comes in and out. This all goes back to intentionality. You know, as the director, I had to kind of come up with an idea of what I wanted from the color palette. So we kind of stuck with that kind of blue and orange look. Not quite the cyan, you know, teal and orange look. This is kind of a little bit different style. And then we kind of just stuck with that. So outside here, we've got the fire set up, and we're just shooting at like 5,000 ISO. We didn't even light this one, I don't think. We're just like, you know, just keeping that kind of contrast throughout. This one was really fun. We put the camera down really low on the ground. I believe we switched to like the 35mm and just pointed up at him. And look, just those lines there and that yellow, that color pop that's going on here. And he's basically just being front lit there, but it still looks really nice. As long as you get your exposure right and the light's coming from the right direction, it can still be a nice image. You know, the highlights are all there. I mean, the Mavo performs pretty well. This is a fun shot we just kind of picked off. He just happened to walk through when we were kind of setting up a shot, and you could see it in the reflection here. So we kind of have this frame within a frame. You know, they're both in that frame. I just really dig that shot. This one's fun. You can, you know, just the framing of this one, and then how those clouds are moving in the background. It's nothing crazy to this stuff, you know. It's just that 55mm looks really nice on full frame. You can see how well it flares here. So there's a little bit of camera movement on this one. We actually have the tripod in the back and I'm driving around with them. And I had to hop in for this one because you could only fit one person in the car. So I could still direct Daniel while we were driving. It's this little camera move. You know, a tripod camera moving in a car is a really unique shot because the car is moving. You just don't really expect that kind of shot to happen. I think I kind of got this idea from an old Leon Bridges music video or something like that. They kind of do this really wide pan, but I want to do the same thing but on that 55 and kind of be really locked in there and move, and I think it looks really fun. And this was just making sure the car was driving with the sun behind them, so we kind of have this backlight, you know, this backlit look. So we actually have some shape in the car. This one's fun. I mean, this is just the fire, 55mm f1.2, I believe, so you can see that bokeh up there. That is literally just a plane flying by, but we're on that dual gain sensor, so we're at 5000 ISO, and look at that. You can see the plane just flying by. One of my favorite shots here, it's just that light coming from that window there, nothing crazy. So you can see how you can do so much with so little. I mean, we did have big, powerful lights, but we only had to use them a handful of times, right? Like, once they were out, we kind of could throw those through windows or whatever, and you don't have to do much. You know, hazing the room really helps. It really gets the level in a good place that looks really, quote-unquote, cinematic. And then we've got the Pro Mist on there and vintage lenses. We're doing a lot to really grit up this image and not make it look sterile and give it, you know, a vibe, just like music videos call for a lot of times. And then this last shot here, pretty fun. I believe we had the 600D, or we actually had a 300D, I believe, and we put my spotlight mount on it. And that way we could focus the light in right on him. This is kind of one of those more surreal kind of looking setups. Like, why does he have a light flashing on him? Well, you don't know where that light's coming from. It's really harsh, but it's just a really fun frame because the light's on him and he's kind of between his friends. You know, the whole idea of the story is that he's kind of alone and he's antsy, and then slowly a friend's like, hey, you want to go take some photos? And then he eventually ends up with all of his friends at the end of the day, feeling better, less antsy, playing his music. So I really like this shot. This old Mercedes was really fun. We kind of were able to snag that last minute. But yeah, this is just one of those moments where we have the light, you know, just focus on him. Pretty different, still have color contrast. We've got a white light on him, and then we have this orange from the fire. And then you even get that natural smoke in there that's coming through the light, just to, you know, fill the frame. We're filling the frame with interest. But I thought this would be fun to break down because it's not often that I can direct my own projects. I'm starting to direct a little bit more. It's, you know, it's really hard not to be the director of photography on everything that I do, but directing is nice too because I can control what I'm shooting. You know, a lot of times in this career, you're shooting for other people and you're kind of at their beckon, right? Like, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever creative they're doing, but sometimes you want to just make something for yourself that looks good, that just nice little pizzazz in your reel to show off what kind of videos you want to make. So this is a great opportunity to help a friend out and do that. So another thing I did was I actually just built a LUT for the shoot day. I just took some footage, some Mavo footage that Keaton sent me, and I kind of tweaked the colors a little bit and the exposure and kind of just made a LUT that I liked for the project, and we shot with that LUT for the whole project. So we had a consistent look while we were shooting. We knew what we were getting in camera. So when I went to color grade and edit this, I just had to throw that LUT on there, make some minor tweaks, and the whole thing was almost completely graded already because we shot within those parameters. I'm gonna do a much deeper dive on this concept later in a video when I release my new kind of film go-to LUT, which I know a lot of you guys have been requesting. That'll be coming up soon enough. I just wanna do that right. I wanna make a LUT for like the pocket cameras, and then I wanna make a Rec 709 LUT so anyone can use the LUT. So it's just taking me some time to finish that, but I'm going to make a whole video on that, so just stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, if you want to see that video. But it was just really easy. I could throw that LUT on there. We were kind of basically graded, and while I was editing, I could see the images already all colored and basically where we wanted them. The only thing I had to add in post really was that grain, and that grain can really bog down your computer, so I just threw that in at the very end. A lot of people ask me about my grain. I don't know how it's gonna look on YouTube, but the grain actually is from DaVinci Resolve. It's built into the software, and I use the 35mm grain. I just kind of crank it up. I just use like a bigger grain structure rather than the smaller one, and I crank it up quite a bit, and I feel like it looks really nice, especially once compression happens. It kind of removes some of that grain, and so you want it to still be there, so that's kind of why I overdo it. Well, I hope this breakdown was helpful, and if you don't mind, like this video. That goes a long way on the channel, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. Till next time, guys, I'm Spencer Sakurai. See ya.